that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
This nation will rise up, and we as a people will get to the promised land.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me.
Give me serenity to deal with this life, like standing in a dark tunnel where there's no light, like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the
it's
pit.
Like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the pit.
I will never quit, I'll go the distance. Hard work pays off, you're on my witness. Like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the
it's
pit.
Like living in the bottom of a pit.
The bottom of the pit. I'm at my wits' end, Lord. I don't.
You mentioned before that this book was something where you had to look at yourself. And I'm finding with my psychology degree that a lot of people don't like looking at themselves because it's too painful for them to look at themselves in their past. Can you tell me about some parts of your book that may address positivity, that inspired, where you were inspired to write some quotes possibly to help people along? I've read your book, but for our audience that has not.
Well, first off, when I was writing the book, there was a lot of self-reflection going on within myself. Like I really, some parts of the book, I really had to address things internally that I've addressed before, that I thought about and came to terms with, but I had to pull a lot of things back out. And I learned some things as I was going through the writing process. I learned some things about myself, and all sorts of stuff. But to what you were saying there, I think a lot of the reason why people don't like to self-reflect and people don't have self-awareness nowadays is because it will screw up their delusion that they've created for themselves in their mind. If they actually have to take responsibility and accountability for things, which is kryptonite for a lot of people at this point, that messes up their world, their internal world, because they realize that they're the problem, that they've done some, there's few people running through my head right now, they've done some really messed up things, but refuse to take any kind of accountability for it. They just stick to their lies, they stick to their delusions, and that's fine. But again, I don't have a right to change them, but I do have a right to decide whether or not I want to deal with them.
The bottom of the pit. When you're down, you gotta look.
This is Exraged No Justice, and I am your host, Kimberly Trapani, and I have an amazing, wonderful show. It's jam-packed, but let's get right to it. We have Luca Brassy, who's a personal trainer, author, actor, and musician. And without further ado, Tony Latorre, thank you for serving our country. You're a veteran, amazing person, insurance and finance professional. The laundry list is thick. Let's get right into it. Tony, welcome to the show. Luca, welcome to the show. What are your goals?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Tone.
All right. My goals in life, or anything specifically? Because I always have goals. There's always goals.
Well, we have short-term and long-term goals.
Yeah.
You can talk about what those are for yourself, for your business.
Sure. So every week, I actually just finished doing it. I write out short-term goals for my week. Then I have my month. Then I have my 6 month, 3 months, 6 month, and year. The short-term goals might just be scheduling another appointment. It might be reaching out to someone that I haven't reached out to in a while to check on. I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's new? Longer-term goals for myself and my business is to build, obviously, a bigger book of business, get my name out there more, and also do more self-development. I feel a lot of people don't do enough self-development, so I've been trying to really educate myself. I've been going to college the past 3 years. I'm starting to wrap up on my last semester here. But I ended up going back to school to get my recert, and my wife's going with me for her original cert for EMTB. So there's always education. There's always something you can be self-developing on in some form or fashion. And I feel if you stop doing that, then that's when you kind of start dying. You have to live every day. So those are my kind of short-term and long-term goals in a nutshell.
Luca, what are your goals?
I have no goals. No, I'm joking. No.
Completed them all.
No, all joking aside, no, that's actually one of the things I really stress with a lot of the people that I work with, especially with training. If you don't have a goal, it's not going to last. You know what I mean? And there's sometimes with this last research that I did, the behavioral change specialization over the summer, I know you guys know all about that because I was talking to you about it every step of the way. But one of the things that it made a point of saying was that sometimes you have to help people find goals. Sometimes they don't know what their short or long-term goals should be. So it is important to have both, just like what we were just saying a second ago. So one of my goals is to make sure that the people I train with have goals. So that's one of my short-term goals. So is to make sure that people are actually here for a purpose and not just here going through the motions, because I have those days where so I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, sorry, but where I don't feel like working out every day. People think that because I'm a trainer, oh, you just want to be in the gym all the time. I'm like, hell no, I don't, man. Sometimes I want to be upstairs with a Guinness eating my M&Ms. You know what I'm saying? But I force myself and I make myself do my workouts and stuff. But I have those days where I just kind of go through the motions. I do the workout, but I'm not really, there's no connection between me and the weights. I'm just kind of doing it. I have those days. But most days I do want to work out. But as far as personally, my short-term goals are obviously always to, give my best effort when I work out. Again, sometimes that doesn't always work out, but that's always a short-term goal of mine. And then making sure that I'm continuing to work on my business. I just picked up a couple of new clients just in the last couple of weeks. But always trying to grow the business, make sure my appointments are scheduled. Like every Sunday, I sit down and I look at my next week and I make sure that everybody's scheduled up. I have to keep track of my money because, again, I'm independent. I'm a sole proprietor. So keeping up on the business, keeping up on money, making sure I know what I'm doing, making sure bills are paid every week. Those are my adulting short-term goals. My long-term goals are obviously to build the business still and be as successful as I can possibly be and make it into something, Eventually, one of the super long-term goals is to have an establishment. Right now I'm training out of the house and stuff, or I go to other people's houses, which is great. But I want to have a location that people can actually come to. Again, that's a long-term goal. That's not something that I'm going to be doing anytime soon, but eventually that's what I want to be doing. And obviously still making my music, doing my thing, continuing with that, getting more acting roles, as they come. Those are always goals of mine. And trying to stay up with my people, man, especially people like you, Kim and Tony. I love you guys.
Love you too, Luca.
Love you too,
and tell me, I failed to mention I'm the president of All Consuming, and a lot of people say, what is All Consuming? It means obsessive. It's a filming company with Chuck Artizone, and I don't tell people unless they ask. Can you tell me, Tony, about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, where do you want to start? There's so much. We always tease around that I should write a book as well, just because there's so much meat and potatoes involved. I when I was younger, I worked a lot. I started working at 7 years old. Joined my dad's business at 12, doing blacktopping and seal coating. He did pay me, so it wasn't child labor. But I wanted to work. I wanted to stay busy. I was always kind of that hyper kid. And I knew if I didn't have a focus or a drive, I would get myself in trouble, in which I did a lot. School really wasn't my thing. It was just like, I have to pass school because, you're a kid. Fast forward through high school, I started doing more work, got involved in more hobbies, things I actually enjoyed and found out in my life that I enjoyed. Did that for a while, graduated high school, moved out pretty early at my house, became a father really young. Obviously that relationship didn't work, but my daughters are still beautiful and they're growing old, doing great things. 16 and 13. And then we got our 11-year-old, Raylan. She's amazing. So side note, we do a little thing every late November after Thanksgiving called No Kids Go Without Christmas. And we raise money and donate that money to an organization that goes out and buys gifts for kids that doesn't have it. And they do all sorts of areas, and they help out a lot of people. Just with bottles and cans, she raised herself $460 she donated last night. So super
That's
proud of her.
awesome. So proud of you and your family. You've done
Yeah.
so much for this country, and now you're passing it on to your family.
Yeah.
Luca, tell me about yourself.
Well, there's not much to tell, you know. No, I'm joking. No, I mean, if it's one thing that I could say about myself, it would be that I know how to work hard. You know what I mean? I've worked hard my entire life. A big misconception when I was young was that a lot of things were given to me, when a lot of these people didn't understand that everything with my dad, with my father, was based on deals. Let's make a deal. Everything was, let's make a deal. You do this, I do this, you know, and he always held to the deals that he made with me, which a lot of people don't do. So I learned not only how to make a deal and keep a deal when I was young, but I also learned the value of a dollar. So I grew up understanding, some people don't understand how money works, so they spend their whole life working for money, if that makes sense, you know. And I learned, you know, now understanding that and executing that are two completely different things. You know what I mean? Understanding how money works, but actually put it into practice can be very challenging, because you got to find certain avenues to do it. But I mean, I work hard, you know, I support, you know, my friends and the people that I care about and all that stuff. I know the value of money. I'm an entrepreneur. Like we talked about, I'm involved with music. As you see on my screen, they call me the POW guy sometimes. Tony and I are working on a script. So I love acting and music and writing and all these different things. Personal training, obviously, that's my bread and butter. But that's pretty much me in a nutshell. You know, a lot of people have a hard time describing themselves, because it's kind of a weird question, like, who am I, huh? You know, so that's pretty much me. You know, you kind of put all that together and I pop out.
Yes, and our topic today is narcissism and gaslighting. And I was reading 12 key phrases narcissistic mothers say and how to respond to them. And it says, I'm not going to read the whole article, but having a narcissist is someone who lives a life that revolves around themselves and lacks the ability to empathize with others, while having a narcissistic parent, and this could be a relationship with a boss, a sister, is a painful experience by any stretch. It can be particularly debilitating to experience having narcissism in your life. And that we have this in many different relations, and I'm finding in the public eye, it doesn't exclude me from narcissistic relations. Can you tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that, and what you think about narcissism as a whole and gaslighting, and your knowledge on the topic at hand?
Go ahead, Tom.
All right. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a bad thing. That's just pretty obvious. But I feel a lot of people get into relationships involving that, whether it's like a mother parent or a father parent, you know, parent to child, a dating relationship, something like that. They get into bad situations, and nobody goes into a relationship saying, I hope this is the worst relationship ever. I hope I lose everything in my life. You know, nobody does that. They just don't know or don't see the signs. I've been in those relationships where females have really twisted, controlled me. I've lost everything in my life, had to come back from it. But I feel you're more prone to be with your eyes open if you find yourself first. You have to spend time with yourself first, open your own eyes, realizing what makes you happy, and being okay with being by yourself. I think that's the first step. Once you can realize, like, hey, I can do this. I don't need anybody else in my life. I can handle it, like in a relationship wise. You can handle yourself first, then everyone around you, the BS kind of fades through pretty quick. So you can say, no, I really don't want that involved in my life, whether it's negative emotions, just bad stuff with the narcissism stuff. But then at the same time, once you start seeing that in someone and you say, no, I don't want that, you draw yourself a hard line, then that's it. Don't go back to that. And it's hard. I mean, a lot of people aren't happy with themselves. and they have to find themselves first. For me, that's the biggest thing. Now, as a child parent, like that article stated, that's really tough because you're kind of stuck in, especially if you're underage, you don't have that, and you think that your parent loves you and they care about you because that's what they tell you, and they probably do, but maybe they themselves don't know that they're being a narcissist. Maybe that's the way they were raised, and it's just that generational kind of flip that goes all the way down. So in that position, that's a lot tougher.
And the signs and symptoms of narcissism, I've done my research. I have a degree in psychology. I've taught kids and troubled youth. Luca, can you tell me a little bit about solutions to equality and what the differences are between self-confidence and narcissistic people?
Well, first of all, I found that narcissistic people, first of all, I hate the word narcissism because it's such a buzzword now, it's kind of lost its meaning. But true narcissism usually are the people that call everybody else a narcissist, because now, especially in relationships, when somebody can't get what they want from the other person, that person is automatically a narcissist. And when it got to the point where I was able to predict what certain people were going to say to me, like, well, what happened with your last relationship? All they had to start off with was, oh, he was so, and I'd be like, let me guess, controlling, abusive, narcissistic, toxic. Am I in the ballpark? And they're just looking at me like, okay, so I suppose you've heard this before. And when every single person you talk to says the same thing, eventually you're like, this can't be that true. I'm like, everybody that you deal with is a narcissist. It's like, come on now. And along the lines of what Tony said, when you draw that boundary with a narcissist, that boundary in their eyes means you're the narcissist. Because I can't have my way, you're the problem. And it's like, no, that's not how this works, you know. And as far as solutions go, the first thing you need to do with a narcissist is set a boundary, like what Tony said, okay? If they're a true narcissist, they probably are going to get upset about that. You know what I mean? And those kind of people, there's nothing really that you can do, because I've seen people go through a phase where they completely destroyed their life but still refuse to take any accountability for it, where they made their own decisions, they screwed everything up, and then tried to still blame everybody else. Those people are very hard to get through to. You know what I mean? I don't know that there is a solution for those kind of people. There are some people, because a big trait in narcissism is they lack self-awareness, the majority of them. They don't understand how they come across to other people. Some people who might have narcissistic tendencies can have self-awareness, and there are solutions to that. And one of the biggest solutions is just being aware of what you're doing. Be aware of the way you think. As human beings, sometimes we're very selfish creatures. So we'll be thinking about something with how it relates to us. You know, like somebody might be sick and maybe can't do something for you that day. And it's like, oh, well, how am I going to fix this for myself? And you're not really thinking that person's sick and in need. You're thinking like, what am I going to do now? That's human nature. But if you can be aware of the fact that you do that, you can start molding yourself into those changes. So I think one of the solutions to it is, first of all, being aware of it, kind of like an alcoholic. You can't solve the problem if you won't accept the fact that you have a problem. Again, a lot of them are hard to break through to, but the number one solution is finding a way to make them aware of what they're doing, like, and finding a way to have them take responsibility for what they're doing, because not only aren't they aware, but even if they are, they refuse to accept it. So I think it's not the type of thing you can make change with laws. You know what I mean? It's not like, you know, murder or burglary or something where you can make laws against it to prevent it. It's a human thing. You know what I mean? So there's really nothing that can be put in place to change it. It really has to come from the person, like within. So in my opinion, that would be the number one solution, is making them aware of what they're doing somehow.
I'm going to read the signs and symptoms just briefly of narcissistic personality disorder, and from the Mayo Clinic. It's an organization, a credible resource. And some of the signs and symptoms are having an unreasonably high sense of importance rather, and requiring constant excessive admiration. Feeling they deserve privileges and special treatment, expect to be recognized as a superior even without achievements, making achievements and talents seem bigger than they are, being preoccupied with fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or the perfect mate, believe they are superior to others and can only spend time with or be understood by equally special people, be critical of and look down on people they feel are not important, expect special favors and expect other people to do what they want without questioning them, take advantage of others to get what they want, having an inability or an unwillingness to recognize the needs and feelings of others, be envious of others and believe others envy them, behave in an arrogant way, brag a lot, and seem conceited. I'm going down the list. It's on the mayoclinic.com. You can, or .org rather. Tony, what's the difference between narcissism and self-confidence?
Me and Luca. No, no. I mean that actually, it's a really good analogy because me and Luca are both very confident. Because we have gone through stuff, we have had to work our way up, and I hate using the word work our way up because we're our own ladder, so to speak. We set our own goals in that sense. So it's great to be very, very happy for your achievements and excited and tell people that's a good thing. You deserve self reflection and gratitude. At the same time, kind of like that said, if in the letter system, if you're a D or an E and you think you're an A, you're not. You're not. If you have confidence, that's good. It's a good thing to have confidence. But there's that line of arrogance where it's just like, now you're just showing off and you're being a jerk and you're really not that good. I actually have a kid in my class, I won't say his name, told me the other day, oh, I've taken 23 fire classes in 13 different counties. Okay, cool, dude. But that doesn't mean nothing because your experience to me is everything. You might take a bunch of classes, but if you don't have experience, then that's it. And he looked at me, he goes, well, what are your achievements? I said, go to my old fire department and look on the wall because my gear's still hanging there. And Luke see my old firehouse. Like, we were high speed. Like, when everything was hitting the fan, that's when they would call. And I was on special New York State fire teams. I was on our team right in our firehouse, where if you weren't qualified, not only with classes, but with certain experiences, you couldn't even ride certain trucks. So it was one of those things that you had to be confident because you need confidence to do a skill proficiently, especially when it comes to life and death. You don't want that second guessing. I guess where it kind of lines into is arrogance is you think you know it, but when it comes time to it, you don't. Confidence is going into a situation knowing I'm confident I can do this job without having to second guess myself. I guess is the best way to put that in a nutshell.
I had a time where I was in a job interview and I had my plan. I've done my research. I have my master's degree and I thought I was the best person for the job. I'm like, woohoo, I'm going to get this job. I'm the best person for this communication director. I public speak. I have a company and I have an award. Woohoo! And they said to me, Kimberly, what's SWOT? And so let's talk a little bit about SWOT analysis. I learned it in my graduate level studies. It's analysis. It's a framework used in business strategic planning to evaluate its competitive positioning in the marketplace. The analysis looks at 4 key characteristics. SWOT is not hitting. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Tony, how in the military did you use SWOT?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I love it. It's funny. I'm actually going for my business degree right now, and my business management. And I love that analogy. I love the model, because it's really important, and we use it so often and we don't even think about it. On the military side, we will look at a situation and say, okay, what's the priority level? Is it high risk, high reward, or is it low risk, low reward? And how many people per se do we need to go in and do a job? Because you can send the whole cavalry in, so to speak, send it into a whole country, take it over, things are great. Or you could go in with 4 or 5 people, get your mission done, and not even know anyone's there. So that's kind of where the SWAT came into us. Like you said, SWOT, not AT. And those opportunities, you might be on a mission where you're only getting education or recon or something like that. You, like, a lot of people, especially they see military, and I love it. They're like, oh, it's like Call of Duty. No, stop. It's not like Call of Duty at all. I mean, they have certain premise, but it's not the same. So sometimes just going in, getting intel, and then getting out, you can do it without any weapons. Though we always carried weapons because, our unit was pretty high speed and things could go wrong really, really quickly. But you didn't, you could go in, get what you needed, your strengths, less numbers, higher educated people for that mission, weaknesses, keeping the mission quiet. We always, spec ops was huge. We always had to make sure everything was, OPSEC was huge. You couldn't tell people where you were, what you were doing, things like that, because of your own security. And, opportunities, you get a lot of good opportunities, a lot of good intel or whatever you're getting into that. And then the threats obviously was pretty obvious. Terrorists or anyone stopping you or getting involved in your mission that shouldn't be, or wants to stop you in some form or fashion. So unfortunately, you have to eliminate the threat. So
Luca, how would you work with somebody that may have, if you're training them physically, may have narcissism or gaslighting in their lives? They may be a narcissist or a victim of a narcissist. Could you use SWAT in that instance?
I think you could. I think the thing is with me is I don't pull any punches. Like Tony knows me for a long time, and if I don't like somebody, they generally will know about it, and they won't know about it because I've been mean to them. They'll know about it because I don't want to be around them. You know what I mean? And if I sense stupidity, rudeness, or selfishness, or some combination of the three, I will say something to you because I have no patience. So I've told people, and I've called them on it. If they've come in for a training session, it's their first one or something, and they have a bit of an ego, I'll call them on it. I say, all right, you're a little bit overconfident here and arrogant. Like, you need to tone this down a little bit, because I can make this workout a lot harder and have you puking like a dog over in the corner in about 5 minutes if I want to. I'm like, so you better check yourself, So the first thing that you have to do is call them on it. But this ties into a little bit of the course that I just took. And here's the thing, okay? Confidence is silent. Insecurities are loud. Confident people don't have to display their confidence. It's something that you can feel. One of my favorite UFC fighters of all time was Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes was not an arrogant guy, but a lot of people thought he had an ego because of the look he always had on his face. He had this silent confidence about him. Wasn't arrogant, but people thought he was cocky still because he would sit there before a fight in his corner he wasn't saying anything. He didn't have to. And he was a hell of a fighter. Anyway, he was confident. He wasn't walking around kind of like, I hate to say this, like a Conor McGregor talking about how great they are and all this other stuff. And I'm like, bro, you are insecure as hell. like when you do that, it like, to me, it says the opposite. And again, I choose not to be close with people like that generally. Part of my problem was when I did what Tony said earlier, took time to myself, wrote my book and everything, I stayed. I never went back and said, yeah, everybody come back around me. Yeah, I was like, you know what? I kind of like this. I'm like, I like having this small circle. But anyway, back to what you were saying. You can use that, okay, in training, but it has to be done a little bit differently, okay? Kind of like the military, especially the Marines,
I don't know how it is now because I heard they have stress cards now that they can pull when somebody's in their face yelling at them. If they're too stressed out about it, they can pull their stress card. Wait, I know, yeah, Tony, you see Tony laughing. Like, we didn't have any of that shit. But anyway, the point was back then to break them down and then rebuild them back up into what they needed them to be to defend the country. Is that accurate, Tony?
Absolutely, yeah.
Fairly accurate, especially in the Marine Corps. I saw that, and I'm like, what they do is they break them down first, and then they build them up from the ground up, and they only have 3 months to do it. You know what I mean? That's a lot of responsibility in 3 months to break someone down and rebuild them back up into what you need them to be. Anyway, it kind of is the same thing with training, where you have to strip them of all ego first, especially if it's someone who like wants to lose weight or something like that, but still might think that they just got it all. It's like, well, then why are you here? you know what I'm saying? So you got to kind of strip them of their ego, bring out their strengths, to show them what their weaknesses are. Okay. Hassan, shout outs to you, Hassan. When he first came to me, he couldn't do one push-up on his knees. Now he can do like 15 or 20 on his toes with the depth bars to get lower. I had to kind of strip him and show him, dude, you're not a hot shot. This is what needs to happen. You know what I mean? And it was the same thing that Keith did with me when I was young, but I started when I was 13. But when I went in, I had no ego. So he didn't have to go through certain steps with me. He was just like, oh, yeah, you know what? Let's just build you up. He was like, we're going to make you into a power lifter. And that's exactly what happened. So he didn't have to do a lot of stripping down. But I think the key is showing weaknesses, bringing out their strengths, and then showing them how they can make their weaknesses into strengths. So, yes, it can be used in training, but it just has to be done, I think, a little bit differently.
And it's a really good point. Everything has to be a stepping stone. It's every little step you take and a process. That Rome wasn't built in a day. We have a process we have to go through in life. We do things we don't want to do. We have to go through the motions when we don't feel like it and force ourselves to go through motions. Women are known to cry, where men, it's not socially acceptable. I'm going to take a long commercial break. It's 5 minutes because I have to address human trafficking and child sex crimes. So take a break. When we come back, we're going to get very deep and blunt, and we're not going to hold back any punches with Tony and Luca as a woman. Take a break, and when we come back, we're going to address more on gaslighting and narcissism.
They can see.
Hello, my name is Maria Perez. I am from San Antonio, Texas. 34 years ago, I was a victim of human trafficking.
Hello, I'm Brian Shree from Texas. As a previous probation parole officer who supervised the most violent and repeated sex offenders in Florida and in Texas, human trafficking continues to this day as one of the most heinous crimes of modern day society.
I'm Kimberly Trapani, all-consuming film.
Right now, traffics are robbing a staggering 24.9 million people of their freedom and basic human dignity. That's roughly 3 times the population of New York City.
They can see. They can feel. J. Green Talks.
they did call the police, but the police declined to file a report. They didn't do anything. They listened to the story and said, well, there's nothing we can do for you. Although she was 4, she's actually very petite for her age, so she could have passed for a 2-year-old, and that makes it even worse. As far as I'm concerned, they're trying to take a child that they think won't even put up a fight.
Went along with him, and the area was not appropriate for any good woman to be at. It was more of a men's bar. When I saw him opening the trunk, I didn't want to get off. I didn't want to leave from that area. I just wanted to stay stuck in my seat. And he says, get off the vehicle, and he shows me his gun. So I got off the vehicle, and I was very much wanted to run. You have no idea how much I wanted to run, but I couldn't run in those shoes. And I remember seeing a church on my left-hand side. And then in me, I was praying to God. It was a Catholic church. It was a Virgen de San Juan church. I remember that. I can see it from the area I was at. In that area, I will never forget the church, the area I was at. That's when he put me in the trunk. Then he was driving me to the border.
Operate in a direction that is a little bit more logical.
And that's where the controlling, and that's where he was, no, and now I own you.
To say, and I'll say it again, America has to get better at fixing a broken system.
Mm-hmm.
In ways of direct communication with legislators and having human trafficking, child abuse, violence, child sex crimes, pedophilia, rape, domestic violence, a priority of the legislators. And until it happens to a member of the government, we can only create a sense of urgency for them by staying in their face.
Was kidnapped because she was taken by a stranger without permission, and she was moved to a different part of the store. So that's the very definition of kidnapping. So she did successfully kidnap her. She just didn't get away with her.
If you tell anyone, I will hurt you and your family.
Potentially, she could have gone later on and maybe kidnapped other children, maybe have multiple children. We don't know, because we let this one get away and didn't pursue like we should have.
We as women have to work together.
Welcome back to Exraged No Justice, and I have Luca Brassy, and he is very busy. I can tell you, he has a show tonight. Tony is also very busy. You were doing charity work, and you have a practice. And can you tell me a little bit about your schedule?
Oh my God. I think Luke's is the same. If you guys can see this calendar here, it's literally filled. And then I'm starting RA for next month.
I use this, but you can see all these crossed out appointments and notes to self. That's stuff that I accomplished.
Yeah, mine's somewhere. This is one of my books. I mean, yeah, it's always organization is so key. And I'm okay at it, but you can always get better. Like time management, it's one of the skills you can always be better at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the point
100%.
is, I appreciate your time and you giving time back to the show, Exraged No
Absolutely.
Justice. I think it's a very important topic. People are struggling through their own pain. And I hear so often people are just trying to survive. And when is America gonna grow a backbone with this drug epidemic, missing children, and lack of empathy? I have the police telling me it's not their jurisdiction, and it's very relevant to our topic today.
Yeah, I mean I'm right there with you. It's I understand there has to be some kind of organization and sense of like jurisdictions and things like that. At the end of the day, us and I'll just put out there because my podcast touched on a lot about it. Was let's just be decent human beings. Let's not be pardon my French, but let's not be complete shitbags who let things go away and throw things out. And the whole, for instance, drug epidemic, I understand it's an addiction, but at the end of the day, and this can get both sides, it's your choice. It's not like you were born with diabetes type 1 and your body doesn't produce insulin. But yet we're handing out free Narcan, but at the same time, kids who might have childhood cancer or things that they didn't, they were born with can't get the help they want because insurance companies won't help them pay for it. Or there's a lot of gray area. And it's just, to me, it's just mind blowing. It really is.
Luca, I'm a teacher. I'm a company owner. You're a company owner. We're busy. We all get along. But for some reason, it's okay for women and men to have to walk out the door and have 3 times. It needs to be harder than it needs to be. There's always problems. People are trying to survive. They have missing kids. I care about these kids, but where is it going to give, Luca?
That's a very good question because a lot of people, first of all, aren't even aware of how bad things have actually become. You know what I mean? Even there's stories that I hear every day. Just this morning, someone asked me if I knew about a story about a little girl who was tied to a shopping cart and was thrown in a lake or something. And I was like, actually, no, I didn't hear about that one. So half the time people aren't even aware, myself included, of what's really going on everywhere. You know what I mean? So I think, again, just like I said before, the number one thing you have to do is, first of all, be aware of it. You know what I mean? You can't change it unless you're aware of it first. So we as a people, okay, a lot of people fear the government, okay? A lot of people really think that the government has our best interest at heart and everything. And, okay, this might get some heat, but they don't. Okay, it's as simple as that. They don't. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They care about their very small, tightly knit group of people. That's who they care about, okay? And those are the people who are in control, okay? What us people, a lot of us don't understand is that instead of fighting amongst each other, if we come together, we're actually more powerful than they are, okay? And a lot of people don't even realize that. So I think if people banded together more and people were more genuine about it, not getting into things like what's in it for me, but what's in it for us, like all of us together. And what's in it for all of us together is being able to take control back, okay, from the people who... Everything good, Tony?
I might have to go. Give me 2 seconds. It's been crazy.
Yeah, Tony is busy as we're live streaming on air. And Luca, you've been in film, and I have a company owner, and I want to use this as an analogy why Tony's working. Teachers and students grapple with new laws restricting pronoun use. Okay, so I've had it. This is in Indianapolis, this article. I've had to teach kids on pronouns, but according to Indianapolis, they are restricting pronoun use in school. So we can't say they or him or her in school districts to the kids. What are your thoughts on that, Luca? Am I supposed to believe that?
Oh man, you really want to go this route, huh? Okay. All right. You said we're going to be blunt, so I'm just going to come out and say it that I think this is all bullshit. Okay. I remember when I was in school learning about mathematics and science and history and still a lot of things that were useless, but now the things they're teaching are even more useless. Okay, for society. Why don't they teach you financial planning, investing, how to buy a house, mortgage rates, how to write a friggin' check? You know what I'm saying? These are the life skills that people need. Instead, they want to teach you, well, there are 19 genders now. And yeah, don't refer to this person as a man, because even though they look like a man and they are a biological man, in their crazy, messed up mind, which can be looked at as a mental illness, they're actually a woman. Do you know how confusing that is for a kid to like hear that? You know what I mean? I got no problem, to each their own, okay? But when you start affecting other people with your crap and trying to fill their minds just so they can think like you do, I have a problem with that. And when you start putting litter boxes in classrooms for kids who identify as a cat, I'm like, okay. I'm like, are we really this far gone? Because I know when I was in third grade, if I raised my hand and asked, where's the litter box so I can go to the bathroom, and ooh, my friend here just sat on my imaginary tail, not only would I be kicked out of the class, but they'd have me assessed and to find out what the hell was wrong with me. Now, teachers are hearing this stuff and like, oh, well, be gentle on the tail. Oh, the litter box is right over there. I'm like, we're allowing this stuff now? And I'm like, what is happening? And that's what I mean. It's like, I hate to be so judgmental, but it comes to a point where you have to be. Okay,
Yeah,
because
it is. And I'm reading the Troy record, not to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Indiana is among at least 10 states that have enacted laws prohibiting and restricting students in schools using pronouns or names that don't match their sex.
That's
ahead,
crazy.
Go ahead, Luca and Tony.
No, I just want to finish what I was saying real quick. When you get to that point, you're almost to the point of no return. You know what I mean? Like, it's gotten so bad where it's like, when are we going to wake up and realize that this is not normal? And we're trying to normalize this stuff that it's not supposed to be normal. And like I said, awareness is the number one thing. And people, what was it? Woke. The acronym for woke I read was willingly overlooking known evil. I loved it because that's exactly what we're doing. Is we're overlooking things that are destroying us as people, and we're going with it. And I'm like, and there's so few whistleblowers, and so many of the whistleblowers want to be silent because they don't want to get in trouble. You know what I mean? Where it's like, how do you come out of that? And like I said, being judgmental is, I think, one of the most important tools you have as a human, because not only is that how you protect yourself, but that's how you can protect other people as well. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's kind of funny sometimes. Like, Kai Green said this, a bodybuilder I love. He was like, you know, when I'm on the elevator in my apartment building and there's a mirror in there, he's like, and I look at myself and I realize that I have become what my parents would have told me to keep away from as a little boy. Because he's a gentle giant, nice as pie, but he was he was a bodybuilder, big black dude with these big dreads. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm the person that my parents would have said, stay away from that guy. You know what I mean? So everybody judges.
To teach pronouns, Luca and Tony. My job is to teach pronouns. These kids are on their cell phones. They're cursing. They're playing. They bring in their speakers and play on their cell phones, on their speakers.
No discipline.
And I can't talk about pronouns as a teacher. Luca and Tony.
Tone, go ahead, bro.
To me, I mean, that's absolutely insane, because I totally agree with Luke 100% on everything he said. I'll piggyback off that. As a kid in school, you know, we don't teach mathematics the way we should anymore. English, I mean, actual English words, spelling words. We don't teach grammar. We don't, and the whole thing is this little evil box right here. Little evil box. Oh, you need to know something? Boom, type it in, it all corrects. Instead of learning how to write things, learning things like you said, math, cooking, your laundry, how to do laundry. People aren't taught this, but yet they're going to be offended, or like you said, oh, in a litter box. That's right. And I literally know a teacher in our local area who has a litter box underneath her desk for that reason. And it blows my mind that we're, like you said, Luke, we're allowing this to be okay. Now, medically speaking, well, facts are facts. There's only two genders, male and female. And I am super supportive. You want to do your own thing. That's, you identify as this. Okay, cool. You're this, you're that. That's fine.
But stay out of my bathroom. Sorry, I had to.
Absolutely. But on a medical side, as you guys just saw, my pager was going off. If you're, and I use this analogy because Raylene was asking me about this, because they're trying to teach that and push that in her school district. I said, okay, you're, let's say, a 20-year-old female who gets into a car accident. You have bruising on your stomach. I'm going to ask first, one, are you okay? But two, are you pregnant or susceptible to be pregnant? Could you be pregnant? Because that tells me, okay, yes, I might be. Now I just raise it from like an injury to possibly two people or two bodies. So I'm going to take that emergency a little different compared to if a guy has bruising. I'm still going to think organ issues, things like that. But I'm not going to have the extra hop I should have if it's for a female, because I want to make sure if that female is pregnant. But then you say, oh, I identify as a guy, but you're actually a female who could be pregnant, then I need to make sure I handle it medically the correct way. And it's just gotten so far crazy and so far gone. I saw today, I was down at Burger King, this lady, she looked like she just came from a rave from the night before. She was in her like mid-60s, or she did that much drugs where she was probably 20, with cat toys hanging around her neck as a necklace, little cat ears, and this bright orange shirt or bright orange hat, which is fine. Looking like she was still ripped out of her mind, like she just came off of a 3-day bender. It's like, man, this is sad because this has become the norm, and it shouldn't be, and I think it is. It's that changing of the world, changing of the country. People don't know how to talk to each other anymore, and I think some of that was with COVID. We had to stay inside and shut everything down, and we don't know how to communicate or, again, be disciplined to say, hey, that's not normal. We need to adjust and overcome whatever, is thrown at us. But yeah, it's just, and the pronouns thing just blows my mind. And I saw a thing earlier today, and then we'll move on a TikTok that Stephanie showed me. This girl goes, I look like a dude. I have short hair and I'm a lesbian. Someone calls me, hey bud, how you doing? She's like, I laugh at it. Yeah, I'm a girl, but I look like this. If you see a duck, you're going to call a duck a duck. You see a horse, a horse isn't a cow. So if you say, hey, you're a horse, how are you today? Why are you going to get mad at me because you look a certain way and I think you are a certain way? Mm-hmm. It just blows my. If you told me, hey, fat baldy, I'd be like, hey, what's going on? Because I'm chunky and bald. I can't be mad at that. That's what I am. So it just blows my mind. It's wild. It really is.
So, Luca, we're in a time where we can't teach our kids to complete sentences. So we got to throw the pronouns out. We can't do our jobs. We got to throw the pronouns out the window. What's the solution to this new world we live in, which is mentally insane? 50 million Americans have psychological disorders. What's the solution to this new abnormal being the normal?
I think one of the solutions is to go back to simpler times. I think technology and social media has brought us to a point where everything is becoming normalized now. I mean, back in the 80s, I was born in 85, but 80s, 90s, we didn't have all this stuff going on. You know what I mean? I mean, sure, it existed, but it's now normal people are being told to shut up. Normal, intelligent, smart people are being told to shut up so they don't offend idiots. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just kind of like, well, the first thing you got to do is stop telling the normal people and the people who are right that they're wrong and that they're the oddballs. Because I'm like, no, we're not. I'm like, we're seeing for things for what they truly are. And a lot of people really aren't. They're like, oh, this is great. I finally have a voice. It's like, yeah, but no offense, but you shouldn't.
some people shouldn't have a voice because they're going to spew their toxic crap all over the place, you know? And I said that about social media. The great part about social media is it gives everyone a voice. The bad part about it is that it gives everyone a voice, you know, because some people just really, I hate to say this, they need to just shut up, you know what I mean? And it's not the ones that they're telling that need to shut up. You know, that's the problem. It's like, if you think that there's 20 different genders and that you can one day decide to be a guy and the next day decide to be a girl based on what bathroom you want to use, it's like, I have a problem with that. It's like, I don't get it. I don't understand where it's going to end, because it's gone so far now that you can't really say anything to these people. You can't say anything without offending somebody, you know, kind of like what Tony said. It's like, if you come up on a woman who identifies as a guy and are you pregnant? Are you hurt? They might get offended and yell at you for it and be pissed off. And it's like, why? It's like, look at yourself. You know what I mean? What was I supposed to think? You know what I mean? Again, it just doesn't make sense. So I think part of the solution is stop telling the people who are right and the people who are trying to do the right thing. Stop telling them that they're wrong. Stop telling them that they're the ones that need to keep quiet. You know, that's one of the things that can be part of the solution, is telling the right people just to shut up. The people that should shut up, they need to be the ones that are told just to stop talking, and let us, people who actually got it together, let us fix the problem. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and again, this is all my opinion, so people might disagree with this, but this is the way I think.
Apparently, too, we have the hiring managers putting the pronouns on job applications. So the kids, once they get out of school and teachers can't teach pronouns, they're not going to know what a pronoun is until they get out in the world, and they don't know what a pronoun is. So hiring managers, I guess you might want to take note of that, to take your pronouns after your job applications, because it's on every application in America. Tony,
Yeah.
thoughts about this before we end this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I really find the solution is just like you said, Luke, going back to the basics. Now, I'm not saying we need to be, cavemen again and, bopping our females with a club and God bless you, and pulling them to the cage, the cave and eating, dinosaurs. That's silly. But I think going back to the basics, the technology, again, is a good thing and it is a bad thing. There's an old saying that I absolutely love, and although I talk a lot, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you talk. And going back to the basics of really basic education, teaching what we should teach, your math, science, things like that, and not get all this extra noise and confusion going on in the world for the schools. Have your schools teach what they need to be taught to move on. And there's also another thing, and then I'll end on that, where a lot of our colleges were being taught a skill, I'll say, or a job per se, like business or music theory, things like that. We're getting taught by teachers. We're not getting taught by professionals in those fields typically. So how are you're being trained to be a worker and to think in this small box? And if in college, I know at least, if you don't fit in this small box, you fail. So what we want to encourage, opening your mind up, thinking outside the box, using your imagination, growing things as opposed to staying trapped. But again, it only conforms our society to stay in the box, or is more control. That's what I love about being an entrepreneur. I do things a certain way, and I have certain regulations I have to follow, like state and federal laws. I have to do that. But at the same time, I have open availability. Like with you, Luke, if you say, hey, I want to throw an extra treadmill in here, no state's going to come down and say, no, you can't do that. If you work for a gym, they're going to say, well, we have to do our SWOT analysis and see if it fits in our budget. It's crazy. And that's inside that box. And it's just wild. So yeah, that's it.
And Luca, narcissistic people blame other people and make them look like the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have solutions? You're a personal trainer, and if I were to come to you and say, hey, this person at work is blaming me for doing something wrong, and it really wasn't my responsibility in the first place. It was actually the principals of the school. could you tell me how you would react or solve the problem if you had a blame game in your own life?
I've had that plenty of times, and one of the things I notice is narcissists will always be the hero or the victim, but never the villain. If you listen to all their stories, they either did something great or something horrible happened to them, but they never were the cause of any of the issues. I think if it's in the workplace and you have a problem with somebody like that or whatever, get you, them, and the boss all in the same room together, and you sit down and you talk about it, and you say, this is the way that I feel when I deal with you. Or actually, you know what? Don't do that. Don't use the word feel. That's a mistake on my part. Do not use the word feel. You want to go based on logic, not feelings. And tell them, this is what it looks like, okay, when you do this particular thing. This was on you, and be direct. It was your fault. Yeah, you're trying to blame me. Okay. And do it in front of whoever your authority figure is. You know what I mean? And this is something that I've actually done a couple of times when I had issues with people at work. Is I got them in a room with whoever our superior was, and we hashed it out. And I said, this is what it is for me. Okay. When you do this, it pisses me off. And here's why. You know what I mean? So that would be my suggestion, especially if it's in the workplace, is get you, the person you're having the issue with, and whoever the boss is in a room together, and you hash it out. That would be my suggestion for something like that. I try not to deal with people like that, you know, people who can't take responsibility for what they do and what they don't do, for that matter. I tend to try to keep away from people like that. But when I was working at the gyms, there was points when I did have to do that, when I'm okay, I can't take this asshole anymore. I got to get them in a room with Pat or Vinny or whoever it was I had to go to and talk about this and get this all on the table and work it out. And we did, you know, and kind of went from there. So that would be my suggestion.
And Tony, I've been called a cunt before. And why you mad? Why are you a cunt? Like that. Pardon my French for our child audience. How would you, what is the solution for personal when you're being attacked to your face?
So I have basically myself two situations. One, I've learned to, I should say, I'll listen to the person. I'll, say what you want to say. Let me hear what you want to say. I'm realizing 90% of the time when you get into a fight with a person, whether it's a spouse or partner or a workplace, something like that, they're not actually mad at you. They're mad at themselves, but they can't figure out why they can't hold themselves accountable for what they did. So they have to blame or attack someone else. So I listen to it and say, okay, are you done? Did that help your situation at all? No, it didn't. Okay, so go back and try to figure something out. Or two, the other flip side is maybe, and I've been a very bad person in my past. So if someone yells at, came from my past and saw me and said, I made mistakes. I made mistakes. Me and Luke have had this conversation before. So if I saw somebody, let's say at Stewart's, right? And they were from.
I love that place, by the way.
I do too.
Go ahead.
It's very interesting. And they were from, let's say, 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatever, when I wasn't the best person I could be. And they start yelling at me, I can't believe you did this and you did that. Yes, I did. And I apologize for that. But I'm a new person. I grew from that. Now, very, very small amount of people, and this doesn't happen that often because I've learned how to control myself, control my anger. Very small amount of people. I do have that switch, though, where there's that one little trigger word, and they're getting a whole entire monster out of me, and that's not a good person. So I try not to bring that out. But I just try to listen, and I'm not going to say validate them because they're probably wrong, but I try to listen to them and say, well, what solved your situation? Like, what is it that you're trying to figure out or solve? Or if you're just mad at me and you want to throw names around and tarnish me, go right ahead, because I have no energy for that. My energy shield is up. So if you're going to waste all that energy getting all hussy and upset and flipping out over nothing, then all right, that's on you. You might as well go talk to a wall because that's what you're getting out of me.
Luca?
What's up? Talk to me.
Girls are players too, I'm told by students. So, and as a president of a film company, I don't intertwine the two together. Although some of the school officials know I have a film company and I help children. What's coming up for you, Luca? You're an author, you're a personal trainer, you have a film. You want to talk about any of that on a lighter note?
Yeah. I mean, I did a couple of films over the summer, Graveyard Shark and Introspection. And I was heavily involved with the Introspection project. I was one of the lead characters and wrote the lead record for the soundtrack that Sean is doing myself.
Yeah.
And Izzy, shout outs to you, Izzy. Mr. Vergara, and I know you probably be watching this at some point, so shout outs to you, my dude. But yeah, so I did those films. So right now I'm just waiting for them for a date as when they're going to premiere and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. I got my recertification, so I'm good on that for a couple of years. So right now I'm really focused on just trying to build the personal training business, a little bit more. Obviously, I want to finish working on the script with Tony for the Hickman project, which kind of took a back seat over the course of the summer and everything, and the fall, because we both had a lot of different things going on. But still doing music. I got a couple of songs that I really want to get done. I got to get back on my writing kick a little bit. Start writing a little bit more. There's one record I want to do for my niece. She asked me a couple of years ago if I would. She goes, Uncle Luke. She was like, you made a song for mommy and auntie when they were little. Like, how come you haven't made one for me yet? And I was like, oh, you want me to make you a song? And she was just like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So I got the beat for it, actually. I've had the beat in my possession for probably about a year. I had it made. And it's the song by the Fine Young Cannibals. She Drives Me Crazy. I sampled the beat and the hook, and that's what I'm going to do with the record, too. The one I did for my little sisters years ago was it was a remake of the Led Zeppelin song, All My Love. And I did that one for them way back in the day. But then I got this other one that I want to do. So getting those records done, acting projects as they come, building the business. I want to work on another book. Probably next year. I'll probably do that next summer because I have 2 years till I have to renew my certification again. So I'll need a project for next summer. So I'll probably do my next book next summer. And yeah, just keep on growing and doing my thing, and then keep on training, keep on hustling, keep on keeping on.
Tony?
Yeah, definitely gotta get the Hickmans done. Like Luke said, this past spring and summer and fall have just been absolutely insane with a bunch of projects. And correlating schedules is really hard to do sometimes when your schedule's already so tight. So we're definitely gonna get that done. Start filming that hopefully in the spring. Looking to get my second degree in business management.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which I never, it's funny because as a kid, I never thought I'd have college degrees. Like that wasn't my thing. So I just kept going at it. Getting my EMT research done, and research, like Luke said, man, it's every couple of years you got to do them and they're a pain in the butt. But what you get, the hardest one is getting the first one done. After that, it's not too bad. Growing the book of business, growing the chicken business. I mean, just really doing great things. And this year, my focus is really trying to spend more time with friends and family. Because almost losing my dad last year was kind of opening to me like, wow, you don't have that much time. You think you do, but you don't. And all it takes is one accident, one mistake, anything like that, and they can be gone. So really spending more time up at camp, I think we're going to try to do.
Yeah,
we got to go camping again next summer, bro.
Absolutely.
But I just want to say one thing along what Tony just said as far as the chicken goes. Tony and his wife Stephanie make this awesome chicken. And it's really good. But it's funny to me because when they do it for parties, I'll like walk in the backyard and they have all these big ass grills, right, with firewood, and that's what they cook with. But they baste it with a fucking mop. And they have a bucket of the base shit, and they pick it up and they're just like, and I'm just laughing because they're mopping the chicken, like literally with the base.
Yeah,
anyway, kick ass. It's real good.
Ingenuity.
Also, I know your time is precious. You have a show tonight, Luca, I know. But one more question on narcissism before we wrap, and then I'll let you both leave us with a quote. Can you tell me, if I'm in a position to lobby, and I've lobbied a lot with Congress and they're sick of hearing me, could you give me advice on what you would tell Assembly Member John McDonald and Governor Hochul and the President of the United States. I introduced his brother in his own TV series about what they need to do to mitigate the emotional manipulation and the verbal abuse of people. I'll say people, I won't say men or women.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I think the first and foremost thing is get your head out of your asses and go visit people. You know, we put these people in office, but we don't see them. Yes, they're busy, but at the same time, go see the people who voted you in. We have a lot of local politicians around here where I am. And you know where they do 90% of their business? At Stewart's. Having a coffee with people and listening to them, listening to what they actually want and need, which I think makes a good person. And don't be a politician. Be a people person. That's it. Like, don't even think about the paycheck. Don't think about what you gotta get to. Learn your people and learn what they actually need and how they can help. And on like the narcissism side, it's kind of hard to put things down on paper, but I think we could put certain legislation where if they had these certain traits and they're committed by a certain crime, maybe we can hold them to a higher punitive, kind of like where we see like psychosocials, like people like murderers who are like totally like your Dahmers and stuff like that, compared to just a heat of the moment murder. So someone who has empathy and remorse, they treat it differently. So maybe if they are involved with something legally, you can use that for a higher punitive if you maybe fit in certain qualifications or something like that.
Oh my God! Now I'm sneezing, man. I don't know what happened last night. Today, I got all of a sudden got a cold or something. But anyway, going along the lines of what Tony just said, I think making things more personable would be great. Okay, for everybody. If I was to be on the phone with Congress or the president, I'd ask them first: is there anybody else that I can talk to besides you guys? Like, because I don't think you guys know what the fuck you're doing. Okay, like, no offense. Not that I could do it any better.
I got a migraine.
But I'm like, is there any other people besides you assholes that I might be able to speak with? Because obviously y'all don't know what you're doing. So who's above you? Can I talk to like whoever is actually in control? You know, is there any of the Rockefellers or Rothschilds people that I might be able to speak with about what they're doing to the world? And kind of talk to them and see if I can maybe infiltrate one of their masquerade balls or get to Bohemian Grove so I can record and really see what the hell is going on. Yeah. Kind of like Alex Jones did a few years back, and actually talk to the people who are in control, and speak to them maybe about what they could do with the $500 billion, that they have of the world's money, and see if they could make any changes, because obviously the people, the puppets that they use, they're not doing a very good job. Or maybe in their eyes, they're doing exactly what they want. So maybe they are doing a good job. It really depends on how you look at it, what side of the fence you're on. But the first thing I do is ask to speak to somebody else. Yeah.
Leave us with a quote.
I say this all the time on my podcast, and it's just so true. It's just very, very simple. Be a good person. That's just be a good person.
Luca, leave us with a quote, please.
It says it right there. POW.
POW.
Pride over wealth. Persevere, overcome, win. I have 2 different acronyms for it. For music, pride over wealth. For fitness, persevere, overcome, win. That's what you got to do. POW all day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate both of you. And we'll see each other at Christmas party.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Kim. I'll see you on Tuesday, my dear. And Tony, I love you, bro. I'll catch you later.
Love you, brother. Absolutely.
Have a good day.
POW.